Chapter 8. There Has Been a Death. Through the haze of the dreams of Anne-Marie heard Henrik rise and leave the house, headed for the barn with the milk pail at daybreak. Later, when she awoke again in the morning, she could hear the birds calling outside, one of them close by the window and in the apple tree, and she could hear Mamma below in the kitchen talking to Christy. Ellen was still asleep. The night before, so shortened by the soldiers in Copenhagen apartment, seemed long ago. Anne-Marie rose quietly so that she would not wake her friend. She pulled on her clothes and went down the narrow, curved staircase to find her sisters kneeling on the kitchen floor trying to make the gray kitten drink water from a bowl. "Silly," she said. "Kittens like milk, not water." "Well, I'm teaching this one new habits," Christy explained importantly. "And I have named him Thor, the god of thunder." Amory burst out laughing. She looked at this tiny kitten who was shaking its head, irritated with wet whiskers, as Christy kept trying to dip his face into the water. "God of thunder?" Amory said. "He looks more like he'd run and hide if there were a thunderstorm." "He has a mother someplace who would comfort him, I imagine," Mamma said. "And when he wants milk, he'll find his mamma." "Or he could go visit one of the cows," Christy said. Although Uncle Henrik no longer raised crops on the farm, as his parents had, he still kept a cow, who munched happily on the meadow grass and gave a little milk each day in return. Now and then, when he was able to send cheese into Copenhagen to his sister's family. The morning Anne-Marie noticed with delight Mamma had made oatmeal, and there was a picture of cream on the table. It was a very long time since she had tasted cream at home when she had bread and tea in the morning. Mamma followed Anne-Marie's eyes to the pitcher. "Fresh from Blossom," she said. "Henrik milks her every morning before he leaves for the boat. And," she added, "there's butter, too. Usually not even Henrik has butter, but he managed to save a little this time." "Save a little from what?" Anne-Marie asked, spooning oatmeal into the flour bowl. "Don't tell me the soldiers tried to, what is the word, relocate butter, too?" She laughed at her own joke, but it wasn't a joke at all. Though Mamma laughed, she goes, "Actually, they do," she said. "They relocate the farmer's butter right into the stomach of their army." I suppose if they knew that Henrik had this tiny little bit of butter, had kept this tiny bit, he would come in guns and march it away down the path. Christy joined in their laughter as the three of them pictured a mound of frightened butter under military arrest. The kitten darted away when Christy's attention was distracted and settled on the windowsill. Suddenly, here in the sunlit kitchen, with the cream in the pitcher and a bird in the apple tree beside the door, and out in the cat gate where Uncle Henrik, surrounded by bright blue sky and water, pulled his nets and filled with shiny silver fish, suddenly the specter of guns and grim-faced soldiers seemed nothing more than a ghost story, a joke, with which to frighten children with in the dark. Ellen appeared in the kitchen doorway, smiling sleepily, and Mamma put another floured bowl on the steaming oatmeal on the old wooden table. "Cream," Anne-Marie said, gesturing to the pitcher with a grin. All day long the girls played out of doors under the brilliant clear sky and sun. Anne-Marie took Ellen to the small pasture beyond the barn and introduced her to Blossom, who gave a lazy, rough-textured lick to the palm of Ellen's hand, and when she extended it timidly, the kitten scampered about and chased the flying insects across the meadow. The girls picked armfuls of wildflowers, dried brown now by the early fall chill, and arranged them in pots and pitchers until their tabletops were crowded with the bouquets. Inside the house, Mamma scrubbed and dusted and tis-tissed at Uncle Henrik's untidy housekeeping. She took the rugs out to the clothesline and beat them with a stick, scattering dust into the air. "He needs a wife," she said, shaking her head, and attacked the old wooden floors with a broom while the rugs aired. "Just look at this," she said, opening the door to the little used formal dining room with its old-fashioned furniture. "He never dusts." And she picked up her cleaning rags, and Christy she added. The god of thunder made a very small rain shower in the corner of the kitchen floor. Keep an eye on him. Late in the afternoon, Uncle Henrik came home. He grinned when he saw how his newly cleaned and polished house and double doors of the living room were wide open and the rugs were aired and the windows washed. Henrik, you need a wife, Mamma scolded him. Henrik laughed and joined Mamma on the steps near the kitchen door. Why do I need a wife when I have a sister? He said in his booming voice. Mamma sighed, but her eyes were twinkling. And you need to stay home more often to take care of the home. This step is broken, and there's a leaking faucet in the kitchen, and Henrik grinning at her, shaking his head in mock dismay, and there's mice in the attic, and my brown sweater has a big moth hole in the sleeve, and if I don't wash the window soon, they laughed together. Anyway, Mamma said, I have opened every window, Henrik, to let in the air in and the sunlight. Thank goodness it's such a beautiful day. Tomorrow will be a good day for fishing, Henrik said, his smile disappearing. Amory listened, recognized the odd phrase. Papa had said the same thing on the telephone. Is the weather good for Henrik? Papa asked, but what did it mean? Henrik went fishing every day, rain or shine. Denmark's fishermen didn't wait for sunny days to make their boats go out and throw their nets into the sea. Amory, silent, sitting next to Ellen under the apple tree, watched her uncle. Mamma looked at him. The weather's right, she said. She asked. Henrik nodded and looked at the sky. He smelled the air. I'll be going back to the boat tonight after supper. We will leave early in the morning. I will stay on the boat all night. Emery wondered what it would be like to be on a boat all night, to lie at anchor, hearing the sea slap against the sides, to see the stars from your place in the sea. You've prepared the living room? Uncle Henrik asked suddenly. Mamma nodded. It's cleaned, and I moved the furniture around to make room. And you saw the flowers, she added. I hadn't thought of it, but the girls picked dried flowers from the meadow. Prepared for the living room for what? Amory asked. Why did you move the furniture? Mamma looked at Uncle Henrik. He had reached down for the kitten scampering past, now held it against his chest and scratched his chin gently. It arched his back with pleasure. Well, girls, he said, it's a sad event, but not too sad, really, because she was very, very old. There has been a death, and tonight your great Aunt Bertie will be resting here in the living room in her casket before she is buried tomorrow. It's the old custom, you know, for the dead to rest at home and their loved ones to be with them before burial. Christy was listening with fascinated look. Right here? She asked. A dead person right here? Anne-Marie said nothing. She was confused. This was the first time she'd ever heard of the death in the family. No one called Copenhagen to say there had been a death. No one had seemed sad. And most puzzling of all, she had never, ever heard the name Great Aunt Bertie. Surely she would have known if she had a relative by that name. Christy might not. Christy was little and didn't pay attention to such things, but Aunt Marie did. And she was always been fascinated by her mother's story of her own childhood. She remembered the names of all the cousins, the great aunts, the uncles, who had been a tease, who had been a grouch, and who had been a scold. That her husband had such a scold that her husband finally moved away to a different house, though they continued to have dinner together every night. Such wonderful, interesting stories filled with colorful personalities of her mother's family. And Amory was quite certain, though she said nothing, that there was no great Aunt Bertie. She didn't exist.